Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the train station. This is episode 35. As always, I am your host, A Train. Not live streaming today, just recording right off the bat. I will be live soon. I'm working on a few things, maybe going to potentially get into some gaming, and that's why I'm not live on Twitch right now. I was live on Twitch earlier. I didn't like the way that it sounded, so I'm redoing it. Today, uh, some big news has broken within something that I've been very passionate about for many years, and we get the results of the Juwaun Howard suspension at the University of Michigan following the incident over the weekend with Wisconsin. I'm going to get into that and to the big news. So let's go ahead and deep dive right into it. I'm going to start with the breaking news of today, and that is that the equal pay, equal play discrimination case that the U.S. women's national team has had against the U.S. Soccer Federation for years. They finally have come to an agreement. The teams reach a settlement where the U.S. women's national team will be guaranteed equal pay with the men's team, and it will offer players millions in back pay, up to $22 million up front from all the back pay, and then they're going to get more as well, and then $2 million towards like charities and camps for younger women athletes that want to play soccer. It's an incredible moment. It's a big time decision. Finally, as The Rock would say, finally, the women get paid equally to their male counterparts for being better in their respective sport. Not saying that they're better than the men's team overall, because if they played, the men would probably win 8-0, 12-0, or probably worse. But in their respective sport for their brand, the women are better, as the women have 4 World Cups, and a bunch of gold medals and this and that, and they're just so much better than their male counterparts. And it's been, a long, long time. In, 2019, they filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Soccer Federation saying that this is gender discrimination. Here's our evidence. And then last year it was denied, and they refiled saying this is unlawful. And finally, they came out today and said the U.S. Soccer Federation will pay the U.S. women's national team equal to their male counterpart. For those that have been knowing me and have followed me for a long time or know who I am, I have been fighting for this for years. Even before 2019, when the lawsuit was filed, this is something that I have been taking very, very personally. I don't always, defend that or certain cases like that, but this is something that I've been defending for so long, and it's because of the success that the U.S. women's national team has had that the men's team hasn't had. So I have been an advocate for so long for them, and it's just great to see them finally get their shining moment that they deserve and that they've been wanting for so long. It's a great feeling, and obviously with the lawsuit and everything, they don't have the greatest relationship with the U.S. Soccer Federation. So hopefully this can be a building block for them to build upon that success that they had. But it's absolutely great that they have had the lawsuit changed and the CBA agreement changed to where they will now make equal to the U.S. men's team. It's an absolutely fantastic move, as the saying, equal play, equal pay. Well, they've been playing more and getting paid less, so it's nice to see them finally get what they deserve. The legal disputes, the pay complaints, but it was filed all the way back in 2016 is when this started, and obviously it was filed by Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan and company way back in 2016. When they first filed in 2016, I jumped on that train and said, you know what, they're right. Pay them what they deserve. And, people think that it has everything to do with just the fact that, well, the men would beat them if they played together. That's not the point here. Definitely not the point here. Um, the men don't have 4 World Cups. The men don't have multiple gold medals. The men have struggled to qualify for the World Cup year after year in a conference that they can, the CONCACAF, which really isn't great at all. With Honduras and teams like that, it's not great, but the women ranked one nationally, ranked top 5 nationally all the time, just keep winning and winning and winning, and then there's the men. And yes, it is about success in their respective sport, but also if you look at the revenue generated, the women have generated more revenue, the women have made more money. There's even more eyes that have been on women's soccer than the men's team. So when you put all of that into perspective, yet the men were making almost 3 times as much as the women were, it was absolutely ridiculous. And so I'm glad that this lawsuit has come into place and has come into play for the women to finally get everything that they deserved, everything they've worked so hard for. I love to see it. I hope you guys love to see it too. And that's all I have to say on that. Finally, they get their big payday and their big break. Scooching over a notch and going into the Juwaun Howard situation that happened over the weekend. I'm going to be brutally honest. This Michigan team sucks. They're hard to watch. They're terrible. And frankly, I haven't really had the time to sit down and watch basketball the way I've wanted to watch basketball. However, I did happen to catch this clip, the things that happened before it and after it. Again, I didn't watch the game because Michigan basketball is unbearable to watch this year, and I haven't really had the time, so, I'm going to put my efforts elsewhere than watching this unbearable team. It's not I understand. Games like this, they get highly emotional, they get intense, it's the heat of the moment kind of thing. That does not allow either coach to put their hands on one another. Yes, I'm a Michigan fan. Yes, Juwaun Howard was at fault here. But let's not act like the Wisconsin coach wasn't trying to get a handshake out of Juwaun Howard when he didn't want to shake hands. That caused Juwaun Howard to react in the wrong way. And I will say, for those that thought it was a punch, that is ridiculous. You clearly have never watched UFC or seen a fight or anything. That was not a punch. He had his hand like this. It was open. More of a slap or a grab kind of thing. It wasn't a punch. And that's the kind of thing that the media will overreact to, and they'll call it a punch, and they'll say this and that, and that's the world that we live in, where the media just overreacts to everything. It wasn't a punch. It was maybe a open hand slap grab type thing. That doesn't mean that Juwaun Howard had any right to do that. I'm just clearing up that for those that think it was a punch, it wasn't a punch. It was like an open hand slap thing. Juwaun Howard was completely in the wrong. You have to understand how to keep your emotions under control, especially at the college level. In the NFL, you still have to understand that, and it's a lot more professional in the NFL and NBA, and at the professional level it's a lot. But at the college level, you, to a lot of these kids, are looked up to them as a father figure. You are looked up to them as their mentor, their father figure. Basically, you're a person who's trying to guide them in the right path. Juwaun Howard and the actions that he proved over the weekend against Wisconsin don't help that case at all. You put yourself in a terrible, terrible situation. And you put your team in a terrible situation, and it gives not just you, but it gives the team, the university, and everybody else a terrible look. You have to understand how to control your emotions in that situation. Also, I've seen a lot of things saying he should have been fired. His punishment was recently released. He is suspended for the remainder of the regular season, which is 5 games, and he has to pay a hefty fine. That is more than enough of a punishment. And I know there's going to be people out there that don't agree with me, and that's okay. But you have to understand that him being fired is a little overboard, and I'm going to explain why. The 5 games is a severe enough punishment. Michigan is sitting at, I think it's 14-11, 8-7 in the Big Ten. They're not great. They're probably not going to make the NCAA tournament with a team that had national championship aspirations and expectations. They're not going to get it. They're probably not going to get there. I'd be surprised if they even get invited to the NCAA tournament. But again, I haven't really watched too much this year. I just know that the team is really bad. Yes, Juwaun Howard lost his cool and he hit the coach. I'll use hit because he didn't punch or anything. That still doesn't mean he should be fired. Especially, and I get it, things these days are a lot different. We overreact and the media overreacts to everything. But in the heat of the moment, things like that are bound to happen. And we live in a weird time where, like I said, it's a lot different. Back in the day, that's why I said he shouldn't be fired. Back in the day, you had Bobby Knight, you had Jed Heathcote, you had all those guys chucking chairs in the middle of a game, breaking stuff, throwing chairs. That's okay, and that's considered acceptable behavior. But for a guy to lose his job, to overreacting to something that happened, is a little ridiculous. The 5-game suspension is more than enough. Also, just earlier this year, the Gonzaga coach Mark Few got cited for a DUI and got a 1-game suspension in the preseason. So why is the media not making more of a fuss about Mark Few driving drunk, potentially killing somebody, and only getting a 1-game suspension in an exhibition preseason game for college basketball, which is probably a D5 opponent, which means absolutely nothing. But they're telling Juwaun Howard he's a terrible person, this and that. It's a bad example, which it is. Don't get me wrong, it's a bad example. But so is drinking and driving. Yet nobody said anything about the drinking and driving. Nobody was calling for Mark Few's head when he was drinking and driving, potentially killing somebody. Don't you think that should be a much more severe consequence than losing your cool in the heat of the moment? You tell me, because I don't know. But the suspension, the fine is absolutely justified. Him keeping his job is justified. He's going to have to clean up his act. And that's all I got for you guys today. I like this take much better than my previous one. That's why I said I went live earlier, but I didn't really like it. I like this much better. I think I get my point across much quicker and much more effectively. What a day. Juwaun Howard punished severely, as he should. The women's national team finally get what they deserve. I don't know when I'm going to be back next, but make sure to follow these links to stay up to date on everything. YouTube, it should be Twitch. Twitch is Train Station Podcast. But make sure to follow these links to stay up to date. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.